So the Sonic Racing CrossWorlds playtest is officially over. And if you're like me, you're going through some crazy withdrawals right now because I already missed this game and it's been less than 24 hours. I genuinely had so much fun playing Sonic Racing CrossWorlds over the weekend, and I cannot await for its release. But thanks to this awesome playtest, we actually got a really big understanding of what this game is going to be all about upon release. So within this video, I would like to talk about all the things that I loved, but also some things that I kind of disagree and don't like about the game. And I'm just gonna kind of gush about the game and just how much I actually loved the playtest, but also on why I think that this is going to be easily the racing game of the year without even being biased to Sonic. So I have a few topics to talk about, so let's go through them all. The first thing I have here is how does it play? The game actually feels super good, and it's a really good, fast-paced game. So within the game, you do have a few options when it comes to how fast you want the game to operate. There's normal speed, high speed, sonic speed, and supersonic speed. And unfortunately, we didn't get the option to play supersonic speed in this playtest. Now, I don't know if online was secretly operating on supersonic speed because the game genuinely felt really fast online. But it's very well possible that it just was Sonic speed, and supersonic speed could be coming later. But all of the concerns prior to the game's release about the speed of the game are completely gone. Now, I will say the biggest complaint that I had about the previous playtest that happened a couple months ago was the chaoticness of items and just genuinely everyone feeling like they're in a big bunch and just getting destroyed everywhere. Now, that still definitely happens from time to time, and it's really unlucky sometimes. And there was definitely a few races where I ended up getting screwed at the end by some metal weight or a truck destroying me or the saws or anything like that towards the end of the race, and it's one of the worst feelings of being first the entire race and then getting smacked at the very end. But I will say that it does feel like that there's a lot more skill to the game than it did in the previous beta. And I'm glad that Sega decided to take a lot of that criticism, as it really feels like it isn't nearly as chaotic. The game does definitely still have its chaotic moments, and I would say it's even more chaotic than most Mario Kart games or previous Sonic Racing games, but it makes the races really interesting and it doesn't feel like such a blowout sometimes. Playing online back in Mario Kart 8, you would have people that were just so far ahead, or even if you're really comfortable with the tracks you were playing on, you could get so far ahead of people without even ever having to worry about them. But the game feels incredibly smooth, and I really don't have any complaints when it comes to gameplay. I'm actually really blown back with how well the game operates. And it's actually just a really beautiful looking game. All the stages look great. That also brings up my next topic, is the stage design. And I think all of the stages are actually really good. We only had to choose from a limited amount of tracks within this. I believe the number was only 9 of the tracks. But honestly, whenever a stage got picked, it really didn't bother me what stage it really was. All of them have their really good moments, and you obviously have the CrossWorlds kind of moment in the second lap that also changes into another one. I really didn't have a problem with any of them. The only one that I would say that is probably my least favorite, if I had to pick one, is probably Abydos. And the only reason I'm saying that is because of the beginning of the race is identical to how Unleashed is, with how super narrow you're running through those buildings. Because if you're one of those players that starts with the monster truck and just decides to absolutely run over everyone, you can easily run over everyone in the race in this kind of little short period of the track. And also, if you're one of those players, I hate you so much. The amount of times I would start a race and then instantly just get smushed was so annoying, but I can't even be mad. It was funny. I'm not a player that decided to use that, as I felt like some of the other gadgets were more useful than that one, but I can't lie, it was annoying but funny at the same time. But I have really high hopes for a lot of the other tracks that are going to be in the game, but all the tracks felt great and I can't wait for the rest of them. And not to be that guy, but honestly, all of these tracks felt better than what Mario Kart World had to offer. Mario Kart World does have some really good tracks, don't get me wrong. Maybe that's a little bit of my bias coming out, but for some reason these tracks just felt really good, no matter if you're using a car or an extreme gearboard. And a big thing for that is gonna have to be the items that help out with these stage designs. I was pretty surprised with how good the items actually are. Yes, it is 100% annoying to get slimed on, sawed in half, or have a huge ass metal weight drop on you towards the end of the race or any point in the race, as it feels like it is really halting your progression and your speed. But I like that there are so many options and they all feel really good and solid to get. And I was also really surprised on how good the wisp actually feels when you're boosting. Very similar to how the mushrooms operate in Mario Kart, it's one of the best feelings in Mario Kart to get a mushroom and pull off a huge shortcut and go off-road. This game has a bunch of moments like that feel so damn good. There's a few moments in Sonic Stadium where you can go ahead and just cut across everybody if you have a speed boost as an item. And it's one of the best feelings to go from like 10th to 1st by just cutting in front of everybody with that. And it also seems like there are some comeback mechanics if you're not doing super well in the race or if you end up getting hit by a lot of items with like the drill wisp and also the monster truck. The drill wisp acts very similar to the bullet bill in Mario Kart, and the monster truck is pretty unique to Sonic. The monster truck doesn't last very long, but it is really cool. And you also have the laser wisp that ends up kind of lasering off of all the people in front of you. And the crazy thing is if everyone is bunched together and you use the laser wisp, you're going to get a huge shot ahead. You can go from like last to first if they're all bunched up. And the laser wisp will even pull off shortcuts. And you also have these special capsules that are usually hidden around the 3rd lap of the race that will typically give you better items. The biggest one that I noticed is one will give you 100 rings. And I don't know if I'm the only one, and somebody can kind of correct me if I am wrong on this, but it feels like rings are extremely important to have in races. 2 of the gadgets that I ended up pairing together while playing most of my time online was the faster air tricks, and then when doing air tricks, you're granted 2 rings. And whenever it felt like I had a bunch of rings, it felt as if I was going much faster and I was able to kind of pull away from the other racers a lot easier. So getting an item that grants you 100 rings, or if you have the gadget that where you can get 130 rings and kind of move your cap of rings up, you're going pretty damn fast. I didn't use the cars a bunch, but when I did use the cars, I usually used the speed type cars that are Sonic, Shadows, or Jokers, and there's some other options as well. If I had max rings and was using a speed vehicle, you weren't catching me unless you threw items at me. Now, things can definitely change when it comes to the official release of the game, but I feel like that's going to be a really important thing to consider when the game does release if you're going to want to perform well online, is making sure you're collecting a lot of rings, or maybe even having a gadget that helps you do so. As I have full intentions of using the exact gadgets I used in the playtest in the main release of the game. That is, unless there is other gadgets, which I'm sure there will be, that are going to be better for me. But moving on from the items, the other thing I kind of wanted to touch on a little bit was the music. And I just wanted to talk about how much the music actually slaps. I mean, yes, it's kind of redundant at this point, saying that a Sonic game has amazing music, as that's just kind of Sonic's thing. I mean, Sonic hasn't always necessarily had the great games, but he's consistently had the amazing music for the most part. But 2 of my favorites that I have been listening to on repeat were Wonder Museum and Sand Road. Those remixes are so damn good, and I cannot wait to see what the other remixes are. The only one that I would say that I didn't really love a bunch was Apidos. I think just the original sounds a lot better than what the remix is, but I still think it's good. But all of the tracks just sound great. Metal Harbor was another great one as well. But it also sounds like that we're able to switch out the music for tracks as well when the game actually releases. As I'll see if I can find it again, but I remember seeing on X that you can switch to like Catch Me If You Can while racing, which is an insane thing to think about. The absolute high and hype I would feel is playing Jet or any of the extreme gearboards while listening to Catch Me If You Can from Sonic Riders while racing would feel so hype. Like the amount of nostalgia and just hype I would feel, it would be so good. And I can't believe that that's going to be a feature. And I hope they include a lot of older music from other games like Break Through It All, Live and Learn, or other tracks like that from previous games. But on the topic of extreme gearboards, we should probably talk about the cars and the boards. Now, there are a few different versions of cars that you got to choose from within this playtest. It seemed as each category of class when it came to the boards or the cars had 4 different customized features to choose from. Speed had 5 once you unlocked the Joker car, but at the beginning of the playtest you only had 4 options. But there was speed, handling, acceleration, power, and then boost, which is also known as the extreme gearboards. I used the extreme gearboards for most of my time, but I did really like some of the car options as well, as I tried to experiment with all of them. If I had to do like a really quick ranking of them, I'd probably say extreme gearboards and speed are probably going to be like your S tier, your best ones. Handling and acceleration were a little bit below that for me personally, and then power felt the worst. Now, I'm sure that my ranking doesn't mean jack when it comes to that. It's just how I personally felt when playing the game and how I performed using each of those. But to be fair, I used Shadow for most of it, so I don't know if using a different character will help you with those different cars, as it seems like each character has their own set of stats. But I was actually pretty blown back that all the vehicles feel really good. I would say there wasn't truly a bad vehicle in the game, and the customization is so much fun. There are definitely times in between races where I just felt lost into customizing and slapping stickers on and changing the colors of my cars and boards. It was just genuinely so much fun to do so, and I can't wait to see what people are going to create when we have access to everything. And DLC is going to bring even more of that as they come out. I think it's such a cool thing that you can combine the front and the back end of a vehicle or board, even if it doesn't necessarily look super good, but some of them actually look really well when you pair them together. I always thought it was really cool if you paired the Joker's back end with the wings and then added Shadow's front end of the speed cars. It kind of gives you that Shadow Generations feel where Shadow had his wings in a way, and I thought that that was a really cool thing to do. But I would imagine there's going to be a bunch of other vehicles and boards alongside characters and many other things. But the other thing that really affected a lot of those vehicles happened to be the gadgets. Gadgets, again, surprised me with how fun it was to customize your gadgets and how many different options there were. Now, I definitely feel like that this is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the gadgets, as I feel like there's going to be many, if not hundreds of options when it comes to gadgets, and I'm sure that they're going to add gadgets as the game comes out. But each gadget had its own kind of benefit to them, and depending on the slots of them, they would take up more slots if it was deemed as a better gadget. Like there was a gadget that took up 3 slots on the top and it ended up boosting all of your speed type vehicles. But there's also stuff that increases your air trick speed, gives you rings. There's the psychopaths that use the monster trucks at the beginning of the race where it gives them that item at the very beginning, and many other options. I didn't get to quite use every single one of them, but I tried to use as many as I could that I felt like would benefit me in the races. And I can't wait to fully deep dive into all of them upon the release, as I think that this is going to be such a big thing about the game. I do feel as if that there is probably going to be that one set that is the best of all of them, but this is genuinely such a good option for them to add, and it makes every race feel different depending on the gadgets you're using. And that was the really cool thing about it. Whether you're using a different character, a different kart, you were on a different stage, it felt like you were playing it over again. Like the replayability of this game seems insanely addicting and really good. I only put roughly about 15 hours into the playtest, but I know that there are some crazy people that were really high on the leaderboards that had well over like 48 hours, if not more. And to think about that, we had a limited amount of cars, a limited amount of stages, a limited amount of characters, and people were playing the game that much. This game is so addicting. All of those things that I previously talked about just into one pack and into one game make this game so good. But while all of that is amazing, I have to talk about one thing that was really a big issue for me within this playtest. And honestly, my biggest issue at that. Most of my time was spent online. I didn't play the Grand Prix too much. I think I played it 2 or 3 times. But the online issues were pretty noticeable, of being disconnected or simply the sync issues in races. Now, I would say at the beginning of the playtest, the first 2 days of it, I didn't really have too many connection issues. When we got to the Joker Festival and the last day, I had some pretty noticeably annoying disconnection issues where you simply just couldn't load into a race and it would boot you from the entire game and you'd have to load back in, or you would get into a race and you would be about ready to start the race and it would boot you saying disconnection from host. This happened way too many times for me to say that this is something not to talk about. The Joker Festival felt like an absolute mess because of this, and I don't know if I'm the only one that experienced that, but I felt like it was the most noticeable then. So if they're going to do festivals, and I'd imagine that they're going to do that for every DLC or every collab character that they have in this game, they really need to fix some of those connection issues. And I hope that this playtest is a big way for them to kind of work on their connection issues. And that was definitely the most annoying thing. The other thing I will say is the sync issues. And what I mean by that is when you're in a race, there is many times where it seems as if a character is passing me up to get first place in a race. And then I finish it, hear Shadow say, I could have done better, saying that he didn't get first, and all of a sudden the board pops up showing that I did get first. This happened a lot more times than you would think. There was a few times where it looked as if I got 4th or even 3rd, and all of a sudden I would end the race and suddenly get first place. And that didn't really make sense to me. And in a way, it didn't feel right, because did I really get first? Did the game just mess up? Or is there some kind of syncing issue with the connection with everybody? I would hope that that kind of gets figured out, because there's also times where it seems as if I got first and then I would get 3rd. So a lot of times I won't throw my items in a certain way or use certain items because it felt as if I was going to get first. So I really hope that that does get figured out. This is something that didn't happen a lot. The sync issue was something that only happened every so often within online, but it's definitely something that was a little annoying. I mean, I'm not going to be mad if all of a sudden it says I get 6th place and actually I got first, but I would like to have it to where it seems like a legitimate win, and also everybody has a fair shot at winning, even if it's at the last second. And the festival was really fun. I really liked the team aspect of it, where you had to do certain things, whether it was collecting rings, tapping each other, or doing air tricks, and you all had to combine your points to see who would get the best. And then you'd get 10 bonus points depending on who did the best on the objective at that time. It was really fun, and I actually had a lot of fun doing it. But yeah, but again, the connection issues in the festival were pretty bad. And I will say that while the festivals were really fun and I really like the idea of them, I really hope that during festivals, during the release of the game, that there is still an option to do world matches. Because when the festival came out for Joker, you couldn't do just world match races where it was just you racing against everyone like it was in the previous days. You had to play the festival, and that was the only online option that you had for that whole day. I don't love that that was an option. I really would have liked that you had the option between the two to pick. I really liked the festival, but I would say as I earned everything that I possibly could and got 700 points to earn all of the Persona 5 gear, I honestly just wanted to kind of go back to the world match, as it felt like that was the most fun to play. And also kind of relying on some people to win the races was a little annoying at times, because some people just kind of be throwing. I can't control if one of my teammates gets dead last and doesn't know what the objective is, and then all of a sudden our whole team loses because of that, even though I got first and did a bunch of air tricks. That happened too many times to the point where it just kind of got annoying sometimes. But I would say the festivals, if you actually ended up playing with like friends and you were all trying to do one thing, I could definitely see how that could make the festivals a lot better. I just didn't have 4 friends to play the game with at that time. But kind of going into more of the more positive stuff again, I really love the rival system that they had inside of the Grand Prix. While I didn't play it a bunch, and I will play it a lot more when the game comes out and I can play every single Grand Prix, the idea of being able to pick your rivals between the one that's a little bit harder and has that one blue flame and just having a normal rival was a bunch of fun. And their dialogue and interactions were really fun too. And I'm sure there's going to be a bunch more when the game comes out with all the characters. I'm kind of interested to see how everyone interacts with the Werehog. I don't believe that the Werehog is going to be having a voice. I believe that's already been confirmed. But I'd imagine that people are going to react kind of funny. Like, it'll be funny to see Jet interact with the Werehog and see what he says to Sonic while he's in that form. But also the fun stage interactions was really cool as well. Like when you use Jet inside of Sonic Stadium, he'll say that a stage that is themed or looks like Sonic is really lame. Or when you're in Metal Harbor, Shadow will talk about Gun, or Knuckles will talk about Water Palace. It's really cool, and it's a really cool touch that they have them interact with the stages if it fits that character. I'm really interested to see what everyone says, and I'm sure somebody's going to create a video of all the interactions of every stage, and I can't wait to watch that. Or just find them on my own while playing the game. And it also looks like in the main game, you will be able to select your rival, where if you don't want to necessarily have it to where it's Jet versus Storm, you could switch it to Jet versus Sonic. which is a cool idea, and I think that is going to make it a little bit better as well, as it seems like the rival is typically the person that's going to give you the most competition when it comes to the Grand Prix. I love that it really seems like Sega is trying to give you every option possible to make this the most enjoyable for you, with giving you a bunch of customization features, giving you a bunch of gadgets, giving you a bunch of different stages, but also tying in some of that nostalgia where it's a lot of stages that are, based on previous Sonic games, or bringing back a lot of characters like the Babylon Rogues. This game has it all for a racing game. The one other thing that I will touch on is the animation. The animation for Sonic Racing CrossWorlds released, and it is an insanely good animation. It is quite short, but I will say go watch it, especially if you enjoyed Shadow Generations Dark Beginnings, as it's very similar to that. But the animation goes absolutely insane. And the craziest thing about this animation is you have a really cool moment where Sonic and Shadow are fighting at the very end to get first place, and they actually gave Shadow the win for once. They made Sonic lose. The main character lost. What is Sega trying to say here? That Shadow is just as important as Sonic now? Is Shadow the new main character? I genuinely cannot believe that they let Shadow win. I'm glad that he did, and I'm super happy that he did, as I've always been a huge Shadow fan, but I cannot believe that they let Shadow actually win here. And I'm glad that it seems like Sega and everybody behind the game are really seeming like that Shadow is supposed to be the most important character. Hell, even in the reveal of the game, it was Shadow starting his car. So this is a great animation, and definitely go watch it if you haven't, as it is so good. And I hope this continues to be a theme for new Sonic game releases, is doing these animations, because they make the game so much more hype, and the build up to the games is so good. And the last thing I will touch on within this video is kind of the big question that everyone has been asking. Will this do better than Mario? Is it better than Mario Kart World? Will it do better than Kirby Air Riders? I think sales-wise, it will do better than Kirby. I don't think it'll do better than Mario Kart. As much as I love my Blue Hedgehog, and it is my favorite series, I have to admit that Sonic isn't as big as what Mario is. I think this game will sell extremely well, especially for a racing game. I think this will be the most sold Sonic racing game to date. I don't see it outselling Mario Kart World. I think Mario Kart is just too big of a title, and it was also a launch title for the Switch too, so a lot of people's only option for a game was this for a first-party game. From the moments I have played quite a bit of Mario Kart World. I have played now the Sonic Racing CrossWorlds playtest. I played the early version of it, and then now the current one. If you would have asked me a couple months ago, I would have said Mario Kart World is still the better game based on the playtest, but after playing this most current playtest, giving a total non-biased, as I love both series, I genuinely had more fun in Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. Everything about the game felt more like my style of racing game. It really feels like that this could easily be my favorite racing game of all time. My favorite racing game is definitely Mario Kart Double Dash, 8, and Sonic Riders in no particular order. All three of those games were so much fun and an absolute peak experience in racing. I really feel confident, and not trying to be too recency biased, as it is less than 24 hours since I played the game. It really feels like that this game could easily be better than those. It has all the makings and all the stuff to be better than those games. Sonic Racing CrossWorlds is an absolute blast and joy to play, and I genuinely could not get enough of it. Anytime I had time to sit down and play games, I instantly wanted to go play Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. It was in the back of my head for so long. I would wake up in the morning and would say, I really want to play Sonic Racing CrossWorlds. Like, I'm trying not to be too recency biased or even Sonic biased, as obviously I have an entire Sonic channel and Sonic is my favorite series and video game franchise, but this game genuinely feels so goddamn good. I cannot believe how good this game actually was. I do think that after the likes of Team Sonic Racing and how I personally didn't really like the game at all, I do feel as if maybe there is a side of me that is just really excited to have a good Sonic Racing game again, and also just having the likes of the Riders stuff introduced with the characters, boards, and maybe even getting some of the tracks later on. Or actually, scratch that. We have White Cave. That's already we are getting some of the tracks. I think that there's a side of me that is definitely being a little biased, but I will come out with a full review after playing the main release of the game and playing through the game in its entirety. And I think that the game is going to be a blast to play. Now, the question might occur, and I want to make a video about this, is this game going to be worth $90 or $70 if you buy just the standard version of the game? I bought the $90 version of the game, but I know everyone's not a insane Sonic fan like I am. I would say that as of right now, yeah, I think it's worth at least $70. $90 might be a bit of a stretch. I think $90 is kind of crazy for any video game, but it is the digital deluxe version. I think it is. You know, I would argue and say that Mario Kart wasn't necessarily worth the price that it was at, but for another racing game, man, like, it's really hard to give you like an accurate, opinion on that, but I feel as if it really is. Like, the game felt so much fun. Like, I can't stress that enough. It felt really good. So I'm super excited to play. I cannot wait for not only the demo that they announced that is going to be coming out in mid-September, but generally just the game's release. I cannot wait to get my hands fully on this game. But let me know in the comments what you guys thought of the game. Did you enjoy it? Was there things that you didn't like? Or potentially, do you think that this game isn't as much hype as it is meant out to be? It seems like people are really hyping up this game, and a lot of people had a bunch of fun playing this game. I've seen nothing really but good things about the game so far, so if there are people that really didn't enjoy the game, or if you think that Mario Kart World is better, let me know what you think is better, or if you think it's better. I would love to know what people are thinking about this game, or if you even think that this has the potential of being, the greatest Sonic Racing game there is. I'm going to be doing a bunch of coverage on the game, and maybe even potentially streaming the game, but we shall see. I cannot wait, and I will see you on release day. Peace!